I wanted to see what measures I could take when miking up a video such as this to end up with zero room noise. Seriously, zero. Is that possible? Well, you're hearing the result of my efforts right now. Here's the background noise boosted by this much. So I've got 10 tips for you. The first half of the video will be more practical tips, the second half, things that we can do in editing. I'm doing this as much for myself as an entertaining video for you guys, because if I find that any of these steps are kind of transcendent in the effect they have, I'm definitely going to be moving it into my regular setup, and I hope you guys can do the same. I've also crammed in a whole load of uncommonly known facts relating to the points, which I know you'll find interesting. I've added timestamps so you can skip to the bits you want, no trouble at all. Likes, appreciated. Subscribes, very much appreciated, but the most valuable to me is shares. So, you know, if you could do that, it would mean the world to me. And if you'd like to support this channel further, I also have a Patreon account. Any funds from that go into the channel, and then I buy gear, review the gear, and give it to my backers. It's cyclical and it works. Details below. Tip 1 is to choose the right microphone for the situation. And in my case, I've gone for one which is going to isolate my voice, reject any kind of room noise, and sound good to boot, and that's why I've gone with the legendary Sennheiser MKH416. It's right here, hidden. Rather than using a lapel mic, which are omnidirectional and usually connected to not top quality signal paths, or a condenser mic, which generally speaking pick up a slightly wider area. Not this one, this has multi-patterns. But I felt like this MKH416 was the one. It just ticks all the boxes for me. It's hypercardioid, so very directional. It's also tuned for dialogue, so it just sounds really good as well. And an interesting fact about the 416 is that it was almost never made because of Cold War paranoia. Sennheiser originally developed the RF condenser technology in this mic because traditional capsules were kind of just failing in high humidity conditions. But the early research into this RF circuit technology was restricted by military applications. The engineers in charge had to actually prove that it wasn't being used for espionage before production could continue. So I guess guilty until proven innocent? Tip 2 is to check in on the acoustic treatment of your space. Now, my room that I use here has gone through quite a few changes recently. Now, I don't know why, but the former owners of this house put down the thinnest carpet known to man on top of laminate flooring with no underlay, and I don't know why. It was a truly disgusting carpet, so it had to go, and now thankfully it has. And I've also recently added this long, heavy material curtain. And it still sounds pretty damn good in here, I think. I've got a brilliant rug, a cloud, diffusers, absorbers, and plenty of furniture. And you know what? I actually don't like a totally dead sounding room. And I think what I have right now is actually more than enough to prevent that kind of empty room sound. Do check out my video about acoustic treatment if you want to do a deeper dive on that. An interesting thing to consider on that note is that a completely dead sounding room with thick carpets, foam on the wall, can sound, in theory, worse than a room with just furniture and no actual professional treatment. If a space becomes too absorptive, as I just described, things can sound strange to the ear. You know, vocals can start to sound boxy, and the word I use is claustrophobic, because without those natural reflections, I don't know, there's something that's just, it doesn't feel or sound right. In fact, let's take the Royal Albert Hall, one of the most famous opera houses in the world, was almost acoustically ruined by people adding in a thick modern style carpet. And they did this originally to try and tackle the ridiculous echo problem that it had forever. It didn't work, obviously, and the engineers had to rebuild the entire acoustic profile using the iconic hanging reflectors they call mushrooms to properly address it. Personally, I'm more of a fan of diffusion rather than absorption. Tip 3, I have turned off absolutely everything I can in this room except for my lights. Now, the biggest culprits for sort of creating this room noise are appliances, aircon units. For me, the biggest culprit is I have 8 hard drives kind of sat underneath my desk. You can't see them right now, but together they are noisy. And interestingly on that, hard drives can sing to each other. When you have multiple mechanical hard drives next to each other, you can get sympathetic vibrations and they can start to sort of sing to each other in harmony. This is an effect called resonant coupling. It's quite interesting, and in large server rooms, hard drives have been known to fail because of that. Interesting. Tip 4, and I'm thinking about my signal chain, and usually for these videos I would go through my Heritage Audio Britstrip, which is a vintage style preamp, EQ, and then compressor all built in. And then from there, I would go straight into my solid state Logic SSL12 for my AD conversion. A great, but with the Britstrip adding its flavor, not exactly squeaky clean signal path. Of course, as per point 3, everything in this room is off, so I'm not using my computer. Instead, I'm going through the fantastic Tascam FR AV2, which I've got just down here. You can see that. And this is a signal path that is squeaky clean. Super clean preamps and AD conversion, and it records in 32-bit float. What's not to like about that? Tip 5, I'm thinking about signal to noise ratio, and it's really important to get this right because this can be the difference of quite a bit of noise or almost none. In this case, you saw where my mic is positioned. It actually looks further away on camera than it actually is. It's pretty close to me, and I like to get it as close as I can without things sounding boomy. I then set the preamp gain as high as I can without overloading the preamps, and boom, a strong signal to noise ratio. Tip 6, I've engaged the high pass filter on my Tascam so that I can cut out unwanted sub bass and bake that into my recording. And you know what, a really good tip for using high pass filters is, if you have the option, apply one with a gentle slope, such as 12 decibels per octave. That's because when a high pass filter is applied too aggressively on a steep slope, it can cause microscopic shifts in phase, which can alter the waveform's timing. This is so weird, and it can actually make a sound like it's slightly bending in pitch, but even though we're not doing any kind of pitch processing. And, you know, to be honest, it's something that you'll hear more in percussion on the whole, but I think on the whole, going with a gentle slope is just a more natural sound anyway. Tip 7, and this is a really nifty trick. I actually like to record a little bit of room tone for every video because there's a really cool trick that we can use that to help us to remove room tone from your recording. I actually left the room whilst recording because I don't want to be a factor that adds to the room tone. Loop your room tone on a separate track to your recorded audio and then flip the phase. In theory, this should cancel out the room tone frequencies from your recorded audio. Genius. Tip 8 is to use EQ to our advantage. Now, I want to listen again to any of the kind of remaining room tone left in our recording, and I'm going to use EQ to notch out anything that's bothering me. For this, I just want to loop a quiet bit of our recording. Make sure you crank the volume to see which frequencies are still poking out, and then reduce them a little with your EQ. Set to a narrow Q. Tip 9, and I'm considering compression, something that has the potential to increase your background noise because it makes the loud bits quieter and the quiet bits louder. And this is difficult for me because I love compression, but my advice would be, in this case, to either use no compression at all or compression with a fast release. And here's why. Compression is a volume reduction process for shaping your sound. The threshold tells the compressor how loud things have to get for it to start working. The attack tells the compressor how quickly to kick in once the volume passes the threshold. And the release tells it when to stop compressing when the volume gets below the threshold. With a quick release, this means the compressor will, in theory, stop working sooner, and it shouldn't touch the ambient noise part of your recording, in theory. Now, this is contrary to how I normally work. I mentioned I love compression, and I normally use compression on the way in. I use it on my channel strip because I just love what it does to my sound. But, you know, it's good to shake things up. Tip 10, and I'm reaching for isotope for, you know, cleaning up, the recording even further. And the plugin that I like from them is actually the Repair Assistant because it has denoise and de-reverb built in. Just chuck it on your track, hit learn and let it do its thing, but be sure to dial the parameters down once it's finished, because I almost always find it too extreme. I imagine there'll be some viewers right now saying, noise gate? Why not use a noise gate? And yeah, fair enough, but I actually really don't like the way noise gates sound. In fact, I actually don't like the de-reverb within that Isotope plugin either. But all of these things, all of these things have their place. Anyway, now let's gather up everything we've learned in this video, grind it up, and make a tasty espresso of tips to take away. Be sure to choose the right microphone for the task. Directional and ones with a low noise floor work well. Acoustic treatment goes a long way and is arguably better value than a better microphone or expensive plugins. Turn off absolutely everything you can in your room. It's kind of surprising the cumulative effect that these kind of things can have. Another small link in the chain is having a good, clean signal chain. Pun not intended, but it really can pay off. Make sure you have a strong signal to noise ratio for minimal noise. High pass filter to avoid that unwanted sub bass. Record some room tone, and then there's that cool phase flipping trick you can try. Notch any unwanted room noise out with EQ. Use either no compression or set it subtly and with a quick release. And as a last resort, there's noise reduction software. And I still don't really like how it sounds. So there you go, a huge array of room noise reducing tips should you need them. I'll just add that I don't think room noise is necessarily bad. It, in a way, just adds context and sounds more normal and natural, don't you think? Anyway, that's it for now. I just hope you found this interesting and helpful. My questions of the day are, do you use any of these tips already? Do you have any to add? I'm really interested to know, please drop them. I've now filmed hundreds of videos about videography and audio, of which the algorithm has chosen this video for you to watch next, and the one below is my most recent upload. Until next time, let's help each other out and shoot better video. See you guys.